Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. This is Ben Kinney, joined here today with Chad Hymes and Bob Stewart. We are in season 2, which is all about what?
Winning.
Which that just never gets old, Bob Stewart.
No, not at all.
I love it.
No. Hashtag winning. In fact, we are in a very important series called what?
Traits of a winner.
Traits of a winner, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very important series. Tell us what's happening during this series if for some reason you're joining us in the middle.
Yeah, if you're joining us in the middle, you want to go back a few episodes because we are taking you through the 6 traits of being a winner. And Ben, what we're doing is at the beginning of the week, we're discussing that trait. And at the end of the week, we are bringing in a professional that captivates what that trait is all about. We've already heard from a Paralympic gold medal athlete. We've already heard from a professor. Ben, we've got firefighter, surgeon, astronaut, and an Army Ranger still to come.
And Bob Stewart,
Of course.
who is like a rocket scientist, NBA player, dad of the year, husband of the year, Times Magazine's the most handsome man in America.
I mean, this is the best I've felt about myself in a really long time.
And if you listen to the last previous episodes, what you'll know is he's always paying attention. Ladies and gentlemen, today's trait is the yin and yang, right? I don't know what other yin and yang examples I can think of. Today we are
Light and dark, cold and hot.
Jumbo shrimp.
No, that's not a yin and yang. What is that called?
Oxymoron.
There it is.
like a chocolate mousse.
Chocolate mousse. Now we're totally off.
No? Okay. Anyway, today, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about being patiently impatient. Now, it's weird because it's a phrase that I use often because I believe that it's had a massive impact on my life of finding a way to harness the power of both of these. Now, Bob Stewart, what's the definition of patient?
The capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting upset or angry.
What does that mean to you, Chad?
Those words do not make sense to me at all, Ben, with my personality.
Screw the dictionary.
Yeah.
We don't like that.
No, I don't like that one at all. No, what does it mean? It means staying calm. It means being patient, of course, as we're going to discuss, but it means being in control of yourself. It's that self-awareness we've talked about in our emotional intelligence series.
Being able to tolerate being uncomfortable, to delay gratification, right? We should call the dictionary and say, we have a new definition, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
That's really what it is, isn't it, Bob?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I see when I look at this definition is a lot of this is, just look at the words here, like the capacity to accept or tolerate. Like a lot of this is external. These are external factors, things we can't control, right? It's like, I want that thing now, but I don't control that thing. Like, how do we find patience around these things where we don't ultimately, have an opportunity to change them right away ourselves?
I think you guys both stopped as you were reading the definition at the same place. I have the capacity to accept and tolerate things. I don't have the capacity to accept or tolerate delay. And that's the definition of patient. It's that delay. It's that let's go, I want it now. Now, I understand delayed gratification when it's something I'm controlling. Not when it's something someone else is controlling and I'm having to wait for a delivery on a product, or I'm having to wait for at the doctor's office and I'm sitting there. No. That delay, there is no patience in my world.
When Chad has to wait for Bob and Ben to start recording.
Oh, my God.
You know what this reminds me of? Do you guys remember the old Tootsie Roll, Tootsie Pop commercials back in the day?
Yeah, there's not.
With the owl?
The owl.
Yeah.
You're like, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? Well, let me see. 1, 2.
And that's me right there.
That's Chad. Just bites into the lollipop. Here's the thing. Today, we are going to compare and contrast the benefits, maybe even some of the downsides of being either patient or impatient so that we can find the balance in our lives to get the results that we want. Because we believe that winning is about speeding at some times and slowing down at others. We have to understand the things that make us impatient, that impatient really truly comes from discomfort or from having a feeling that things are out of our control. And being out of control makes us feel uncomfortable. Impatience is created when we're trying to immediately eliminate that discomfort. We need to learn to recognize and cope with impatience or discomfort when it's not life-threatening and it's actually a situation that we can solve, because sometimes it actually pays off when you're patient. Now, I'll tell you like one area that I'm completely impatient at, losing weight. Like
Most
the
people
idea
are.
of losing half a pound a week for the whole year to get to the goal, that doesn't work for me, right? I'm like, let's go on the Jesus diet, which I'm going to trademark. It's 40 days and 40 nights without eating, right? Basically, I'm going to walk through the desert of my world, right, without eating, and I'm going to get to my goal weight in 40 days because I cannot imagine, Bob,
Well, so
trudging.
I feel like that
No-
might
no
be
comment.
from you were a wrestler. Like I can remember a couple of my friends that were wrestlers. They'd wear these crazy suits, these
Cutting weight.
sweatsuits, and they'd run around having to lose 15
Yeah.
pounds in a week to cut for weight. Like,
I thought you were making fun of the spandex singlet uniform.
We
I
could go
freaking love
there.
that. I might wear that to work from now
Please
on.
don't. Please don't.
So let's go through some of these. And what I'd like to do, gentlemen, is talk about first some of the benefits, traits, thoughts around patience. And then we'll talk about some of the benefits, thoughts around impatience. And then let's talk about some scenarios in our lives or our businesses when being one or the other has paid off. Now, Robert F. Kennedy said, "We're here on earth to make some kind of a contribution. And with that, I'm impatient. I suppose I would hope that everybody would be impatient." And he was referencing back to using our time on earth to make a contribution, to do something. We shouldn't wait for that, right? I think that's a great statement of let's not waste the time that we're here. Now, there's benefits to patient, and sometimes being patient actually pays in dividends 10 times more than being impatient.
Yes.
You can actually get further by being patient. An example of that would be compounding interest and investing into a retirement account, right? Most of those people, the Warren Buffett approach, right? You're going to get way further financially in life by consistently investing a small amount of money and never touching it over a long period of time than the new Bitcoin stock play, flipping homes, as seen on TV, DVD set that now you can too do this thing.
I can't go buy the Ferrari with my, I can't buy it for 50 years the other way, right? Like I want that thing that's going to get me the Ferrari.
Yes.
I
It's
think
the
that we
lottery
should-
winning.
Yeah, or we should make like an NFT. Is that what they're called now?
Yeah.
An NFT
Oh, no.
of us three guys, right? Maybe holding each other romantically.
Yeah.
Yeah, just holding each other, and we'll sell it.
Yeah. We'd probably get like 1/10 of a Bitcoin for that thing at least. I mean,
I'd
that's
pay you to
Doing the math, that's $5 grand. Maybe anybody here on this call, would you be interested in buying an NFT of Chad, Bob, and Ben? Fully dressed, by the way. We're not going into the other
Embracing.
category. But anyway, if you're interested, reach out to us. Back to our original thing at hand.
Please.
Reasons why patience is so important.
You're testing mine right now.
In leadership, Chad, patience allows you to get your team into productivity, to get your people that you hire producing, to get the bugs worked out, Bob.
Yeah.
Patience actually improves productivity. Because if you're not patient, you're going to bring somebody in and say, this person sucks, you're going to fire and bring somebody else in. This person sucks, you're going to fire and bring somebody else in. You actually never have anybody because you don't pour into them enough, right? Patience and productivity go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
Well, once you get people into production in leadership, you want to keep them in your world. And I want you to know that patience shows a level of appreciation and respect
Yes.
that allows the people that you're leading to sit up and say, you know what? I know Chad and Bob are extremely busy, but the fact that they would give me 10 minutes today to talk about what was going on in my world, that means a lot. That earns a lot of respect when they know how busy we are, and we'll flip our phone over and just say, how can I help? How much time do you have? As much as you need. How can I help? Right? In leadership, patience shows respect and allows you to build rapport and retain
Like
people.
here's what the impatient leader does, Ben. I think they come into the group and they don't have time, right? So they grab everybody, all 15 salespeople or whatever, and they're like, hey, we need to do better. The patient leader would go to each individual themselves, right? Would sit down one-on-one, would give a little bit of time to that person, would focus on some things that person needed to develop in their, in their skill set, right? So, I mean,
And the patient leader on the other side of that is someone like Ben, who we've spoken about many times, how he does this. He knows the people in his world. He knows their family members. He knows their hobbies. He knows their likes, their dislikes on major things because he's been patient. And because of that, he earns the respect of the people around him who they feel like they have a close relationship with him because he's been patient learning about them.
you're really good at this, Ben. Like you never give off an air of like, you got to go. Or that you're like, you don't want to be in that conversation. Like you have this way of just kind of settling into a conversation that to me, like just screams, man, this is a patient guy. Like I never feel rushed around him. I always feel like I can get my thoughts out, except for when he's staring at me right now, asking me to finish.
Time is the only thing that if someone asked me, he says, wait, I would say time is the other thing that Ben would be impatient about. As we've seen when he has somewhere to be at a certain time, you can start to see in his eyes that it's happening if you know him. But you do a very good job of being patient with people when that time comes.
I never feel rushed when I'm in your presence.
He knows you're just going to keep talking.
Thank you for the compliment. Number 3 is that things become easy over time when you're patient. I saw Bob more times in his underwear this year than I ever cared to see because we all did this push-up challenge and we had to send each other videos of doing it. And no matter when it was, we didn't forget, we'd have to go do it. And Bob would send this video at 11 o'clock at night because he just remembered, he just jumped out of bed. And so I get this video of Bob doing push-ups in his underwear. But I remember on the first couple of weeks, Bob, it was hard.
Yeah.
We were doing this 100 push-ups in a row challenge without stopping, and it was freaking hard. And it was hard to just do whatever that amount was, right? 20 or 30 or 40 or whatever that might be. And you wanted to quit because the next day you were sore and you knew it was going to be hard to do one more. But when you stick through it, you wake up in a month and that initial 40 was now easy. Like you didn't even stop. You don't even think about it, right?
Yeah.
Over time, hard things become easy if you're patient enough to endure the uncomfort.
That's the Greek proverb, 1 minute of patience, 10 years of peace.
That is so good.
Well,
that is so good.
Greek proverb. I didn't get to come up with that one.
No,
It's
it
like
wasn't
Socrates.
yours. It wasn't
Not me at all,
It wasn't a
right?
Chad proverb.
But, no, not at all. But
Okay.
1 minute of patience, 10 years of peace.
Number 4, Chad, patience makes decision-making easier. Patience allows you to make better decisions. Now, early on in my career, I felt like I had to make decisions all the time when presented with a problem,
Right.
and that they counted me on that. And what I realized is that what they really wanted more than anything was the right decision. And they wanted a decision, Bob, that I wasn't going to change my mind on the next day or the day after. Because of that, I use patience as a way to make better decisions. That might look like I will pay attention and listen, take notes. And when I'm done, I may have an inkling of what I think the right answer is, but I'll look at them and say, would it be okay if I think on this for a couple days and come back to you with a better solution or better answer? It pays so often. Sometimes these decisions that were being presented in front of me work themselves out naturally, and I actually don't have to make the decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes additional details come
To the
surface, right? And now I have a whole different set of options that are put into place. It's very important that you understand that the best decisions require time.
I think when you're a leader, a lot of times, you get people coming to you all the time, like, hey, help me here. What's the answer here? What do we do? And there's this natural feeling you got to have an answer every time, right? And you don't want to you don't want to let the people you're leading think, oh, Ben doesn't have the answer either. But a lot of times that's the reality. Like right now you don't have the answer, right? You can go research it and figure it out and help them figure it out, but you don't always have to have every answer. And I think there's probably a certain amount of freedom, Ben, that comes with, that point in your career where you finally realize, you know what, I don't have to have every answer right now.
And not having it right now, as Ben said, sometimes means they find it themselves. I don't know how many times I've had a call from someone that said, can you find me 5 minutes? And I said, yes, at the end of the day, I can do it. And by the time I reach out to them at the end of the day, they're like, hey, thanks for reaching back out. Don't worry about it. I figured it out though.
Yeah, totally.
Right? So patience will also remove some of those things off your to-do list because people will self-discover the answers and do it without you.
Next one, patience allows us to prepare. When you're in a hurry, you don't prepare effectively, right? Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 6 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend at least 4 sharpening my axe.
That's a great one.
Ooh.
But you can't do that if you're in such a hurry all the time to chop down a tree. In fact, some people, they spend so much time and energy thinking about chopping down trees, they end up swinging the axe at 20 trees and no trees ever fall.
Correct.
In fact, we have a great video on YouTube about that. If you guys ever want to go dig it up,
We'll
it's on
put the
our
link
YouTube
in the
channel.
show notes for you if you want to
Perfect.
check that one out.
Perfect. So, preparation, right, is available to us when we can show a certain level of patience. Another one, patience removes the emotion. Right? Imagine that you're in this fight, Bob, with your bride, or Chad with your bride, bride, somebody married, that
Yes,
one.
her.
Okay, so you're in this situation, right? And she says something, and you immediately want to say, "That's not true. Are you kidding me?" Right? No, you're wrong. Or you feel personally attacked, Bob, because of something they said. The next day, and when you respond to it, you're not going to have that same emotional flare.
I have a temper.
Where the heck was this episode before now, Ben?
I have a temper. I see a therapist about it. We've talked about it on the show before. My wife and I have figured out a routine that works for us. And when we have something come up during the week, you want to, like, I'm the type, I just want to, let's just hammer it out. Let's figure this out. Let's get it out. We've actually gotten to a place where we can let those little things come up each week. We do date night on Thursday. You know this, Ben. We do date night on Thursday, and we just address
Does he
those
know this because
issues.
he's invited to date night, or that's the one night he agrees not to bother you all
No,
night?
we used to do this thing on Thursday nights, and I had to.
I still do that thing on Thursday nights. He stopped showing up.
Got it. Yeah.
Anyways, but so for our date night, like, we address these things that have come up that week in our relationship that, had we addressed them right in the moment, where they might have been contentious, right? There might have been some emotion behind those things, and it might not have been the outcome that we wanted. And so we let ourselves cool off, and we bring those things to the table every Thursday night. And so my wife and I have a session where we go have dinner, and Grandma comes and watches the kids, and we've got some time alone, and we talk about those things in a really calm manner where neither one of us have any emotions. There's no anger behind them. We've had time to formulate our thoughts on them, and it's a really effective way for Aaron and I. My wife and I are both pretty animated individuals, and have strong opinions. So it's just a really great way for us to make sure that we're not triggering each other, essentially.
Yeah, in fact, that'll be my next one. Patience makes you a better listener.
Mm.
You ever tried to resolve a conflict when you're in a hurry? An employee, somebody comes up and they says, "Hey, I got this thing," and you're in a hurry because you know you have to be somewhere else. You're not a good listener. You don't even probably hear the real problem, right? It doesn't get resolved. So when you have patience, and that patience could be stopping to handle it, or patience to say, would it be okay if we address this tomorrow when I could give you my full attention for a half hour?
Absolutely. Which you do often when you don't have the time. You'll reschedule the opportunity when you can be patient because you know you're not at the moment.
Patience makes you a better listener. At the end of the day, we know that patience is going to give you better results, that it's going to allow you to make better decisions, to have better relationships. It'll have a lot of benefits to your organization. But I want you to understand that it also can have some real consequences to your world. Sometimes when you're too patient, you actually move too slow.
Absolutely. I think impatience is a powerful trait that we can use in the right situations.
Impatience is a tool, and another word for impatience, because I feel like impatience has a negative connotation to it. What if we said taking action?
Well, sure, that's a positive term right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Somebody's drowning in the river, you don't always have an opportunity to strategize where the best place is, right? Who should go. Sometimes you just need
To jump in.
Action.
Yeah,
to take action.
absolutely.
In fact, I was in Texas in February with a handful of our people, and we were driving back to the airport after an event, and I saw this car. I was driving, and I saw this car start to drift over to the side, and the freeway was going in this Y and separating, and I'm like, oh, that car, we're doing 70 or 80 miles an hour on the freeway, and I'm like, that car's going to hit, and I start slowing down, and literally this car's front tire hits the Y, and Bob, it flips up in the air, completely up in the air, lands on the
hood,
the top of the car,
The
right?
roof, yeah.
And is spinning in the road. I'm able to stop the vehicle. I look in my rearview mirror to make sure the car behind me is not going to hit me.
Yeah.
I jump out, I run to the vehicle, open the door, lady's hanging upside down, take my knife, I cut her out of her seatbelt, drag her out of the car. What was funny was by the time I had that done, the majority of my car was not out of the car yet.
Oh, the rest of the people that you were riding with, they were all just sitting there. They were
They were being patient.
They were being patient.
This was not a time to be patient.
Well, they were just observing, right?
They're
They didn't really know what was
shocked. Half of
happening,
them were in
right?
shock. They didn't know what
I
to
had
do.
a little bit of a head start because I was driving. I saw the thing happening, right? And they obviously saw the car spinning, but my initial instinct was to take action,
Go get it.
was to run. And the only reason I bring that up, these are great guys, and they would jump in a river to save anyone. But their initial reaction was to assess the situation first,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just kind of a little bit of a difference in behavioral styles between the group of people that we were traveling with today. Impatience is about taking action.
Ben, I got some interesting data. I know one of the things that you really like is when we have statistics and we find some facts and stuff on this. Forbes magazine had done a study and collected some data on people. And even though people know patient is better than impatient overall, more than half the people, 60% of the people, actually said they were impatient as their trait over being patient. And the higher up you went as a professional, the higher that got on impatience. Like top management people are over 71% considered themselves impatient. And then the number comes down towards that 60% and 50% for just people who are just individuals who were involved. So the higher you are in a company, the more you describe yourself probably as impatient because you're someone who actually takes action.
So those individuals that were leaders,
Yep.
right? What percentage of those considered themselves impatient?
71%, the ones who were all the way at the top management positions.
And the people that reported to them and the people that reported to
It
them.
went down and down to 64 to 56, down to 50% in the study. Overall, 60% of the people thought themselves impatient.
So does that say, Chad, that impatient leaders are better leaders or worse leaders?
Doesn't necessarily say better or worse from those statistics, but then Forbes went deeper, right? And they did one of those 360-degree assessments that we do on people, to find out all these traits about them. They compared a whole bunch of patient leaders versus impatient leaders. And what they actually found were that the impatient leaders were overall better leaders. And what Forbes has found in this discovery was, one, impatience is positively correlated with getting things done. So it's associated with speed, energy, transformation, and change. So those leaders were given a perk because of that. They were considered better leaders because of what they brought to their organizations.
It was positively correlated with getting results and execution, speed, energy, and transformation. In business, the word that stood out to me was transformation.
Sure.
Think about Netflix versus Blockbuster,
Oh, yes.
right? Kodak, right? There's all these businesses, Sears, JCPenney's. There's all these businesses that had the opportunity to be a Netflix or to be an Amazon or to be something different, but they actually just didn't transform.
Yeah. Think about, we just did an episode not too long ago about Milton Hershey. And we were talking about the fact that Hershey had an opportunity to go into Europe after the war because of the reputation they had, but they were too patient. They weren't impatient enough to make the move, and they lost out on a major market that could have been theirs that ended up going to other companies.
All right, what else did Forbes say?
Okay, they said that competencies such as building relationships, building teamwork, having collaboration seem to be more positively impacted by leaders that had more patience. So what you were saying earlier, right? Growing a team, having the respect did come from patience. So we need to have both pieces to that impatiently patient situation that we're dealing with.
All right, so that's interesting. So impatient is directly correlated to speed, energy, and transformation, while patience is closely correlated with relationship building, teamwork, collaboration, and the development of others.
Correct. And if you go too far the other way and go to excessive patience, it actually does more harm than good for the organization because the employees in the organization don't see any change, don't see any growth, don't see results coming down the chain.
I just see balance. That's what, like, as I hear what Chad's saying and what you get, it's just, you got to balance these things, right? You can't be you can't be obsessive or maniacal in either direction.
Well, not just balance, like find your middle ground. It's know when to be one and know when to be the other,
yeah.
right? How do you sandwich patiently listen to somebody with impatiently saying, all right, I understand your problem. Here is what you need to do. When are you going to get that done to solve your problem, right? I'm patient, I listen, I understand, and then I lead and say, what are you going to do? When are you going to get it done? How are you going to report back to me? You're sandwiching these skill sets, peanut butter and jelly, right? You're sandwiching, you're switching between those different layers when needed. It's not about being in the middle. Now, the Forbes research talked about how impatience had some greater competency in certain skill set, Chad. Do you remember that?
Yes, they were talking about impatient champion change, right? We talked about that, the transformation that comes with it.
They make changes in organizations happen.
Yes, innovation, right? We're going to innovate the way things are done. We're going to change the way things are always done. We take initiative, Ben. These were things that were on that list.
These are all things the impatient
yes
person is doing, okay?
If you're looking at your organization, your company, your world, your family, whatever it is, and change is not happening, innovation is not happening, and initiative is not happening, you yourself have to go search out and find the impatient side of you, or you need to put some people in place that are going to push, that have some drive and desire to get things done in a timely manner.
Absolutely.
Okay, what else?
If we kept going, impatient, solve problems and analyzing issues. Professional expertise. This is one of my favorites. The impatient were better at inspiring and motivating others.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think impatient person is more motivating than a patient person?
Well, because they want the results right away and they're driving towards it. So either they're motivating, and it doesn't say here, Ben, whether they're motivating with pain or pleasure, right? Most people that are impatient talk faster. They have more of that natural energy that comes out of them, and that's just contagious, which will motivate. And then there's also that leader who motivates out of fear because they want results right away because of their impatience. So overall, whichever way it is, they inspire and motivate.
I was thinking if you look at it, like you redefined impatience as taking action. If I'm somebody that's doing that and other people, and I'm being successful with that in whatever the field is, other people are looking at that person who's impatient, taking action and being motivated by, the successes they see from
When someone starts running, others run. When the building's on fire, you don't think about it. If someone's running out the building, you're just going to run with them.
I had a gentleman the other day reach out to me and say, you know what, I could see myself, I don't really love sales. I could see myself being like a motivational speaker, a teacher, like somebody that does that kind of stuff. And I said, great. What have you done that would motivate people, right, to follow you? Mm-hmm. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, most people follow people that have had some level of success that have been the best at something. So what have you been the best at? And he just kind of looked at me and I said, don't you think nailing this thing that you signed up for is important if you really wanted to inspire and motivate people? He was missing the correlation. Like he wanted the job, right? He wanted to be the quarterback, but he didn't want to do all the work. He wasn't patient enough to do all the work to where he could be that person that he really saw himself being. Now, I think inside him, he has the ability to do that, but he's going to have to put the time in just like all of us have to.
You got to find the balance. We talked about this on, and I'm going to attempt to say it without tripping myself up here, right? Selfish or selfless. That
Wow.
right. I went real slow there, Bob. That there's the two extremes, and I think it's very similar with this patiently impatient that you have, Ben. We can't live at either extreme for very long, and we have to know that if we go to one, we're going to have to come over to the other, or we have to find that middle ground that we can survive in.
Let's talk about some examples of how it's showed up in our world, in our lives, and I'll give you some of these. But I want to go on this completely weird tangent for a second, and I have a reason, Bob, but I'm going to call on you.
Right.
Do you remember, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago when you and I were traveling the world teaching the long tail?
Yeah.
Tell everybody what the long tail is and really explain it, because then I want to try it back to this.
Okay. So this is an SEO, search engine optimization concept, but it's really not even that. The long tail is really how Amazon kind of came about, right? Like you could walk into a bookstore and the physical inventory they can hold in a bookstore, they had to hold the most popular titles. But in any given thing, those most popular titles, like in books, for example, in a year, they might make up 10% of the sales in books. So, Barnes & Noble could only hold the books that made up 10% of the sales, because what you have on this long tail is millions of other books, where any one book might get sold 5 or 6 times a year. And cumulatively, though, those books make up a really big percentage of the sales. And so Amazon was really the first company to kind of explore this as a business model. They said, look, we'll carry the big books, but because we don't have physical inventory in an office or a storefront, we're going to carry all the books. Right. So that we had the same thing in SEO. And that's what we would teach about, Ben, is this idea that we were in the real estate industry. So, a lot of consumers go online and they type in homes for sale in Seattle. Well, and that makes up probably about 40% of the search traffic are these really short phrases.
Seattle real estate,
Seattle real
homes,
estate,
Seattle condos.
Yep. But there are literally hundreds of thousands of other variations of the things people could type. But any one of those searches, so condos in Wallingford, Seattle, under $400,000. That's a long tail search phrase. That might only get done twice a month. But the cumulative of all of those long tail search phrases happens millions of times, right? On the cumulative. So this concept of the long tail is that, there's a limited number of things that make up a decent chunk. And then there's potentially thousands or millions of these other things that make up the actual larger chunk.
Yeah, so 20% of the available traffic is going to come from the top 10 keywords.
Yep.
80% of the available traffic is going to come from thousands or millions of other phrases that people type into search engines.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you were patient and you were willing to go out there and build content or build pages or build ads or build things around a whole bunch of those 80%ers, the summation of each one of those searches would equate to being a massive amount of traffic.
Which is what you did for your business.
Which is what we did for our business. Yep. What Amazon did for the bookstore. Because I didn't have the money to compete for Seattle real estate. I did have the time and energy and know-how to compete for Wallingford condos, Wallingford view homes, whatever those things might be. But that is a patient game. And then you wake up one day and you actually have a dominant business.
You're a 10-year overnight success.
Yeah. Let's talk about another area where patience and impatience come in. And for me, it's hiring. I am willing to build a relationship with somebody for months or years and have no benefit from either one of us. And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, we work together. Now, I'm sure there's countless people listening to this podcast who work in one of our companies today that knew me for years and years and years prior to coming to work for us. Right?
I knew you for a year. You and I were in different scenarios and settings and situations for a year, developing a relationship before we got into business together.
I think I was 7 or 8 years I knew you before we. Yeah.
And then when the right opportunity came, I was impatient. I called Bob and said, I have an opportunity.
Yeah, like literally one day, it was like, what do you want to do? And I don't know, 2 days later, we were.
Yeah.
in business. Yeah.
Chad, I have an opportunity. Get on a plane, come out here. And I did the greatest job interview of all time, Bob, as I took Chad on a boat on the Olympic Peninsula in the rain for 3 days and allowed him to experience cold weather, wet weather, and
That's where the
shotguns.
impatience of the
It can't get
patient.
any worse than this, Chad. So if you come to work with me, I promise we won't rain on you all
It's
day.
exactly what he said. If we could survive that weekend together and that experience and come out of it smiling, there's nothing we're going to have at work that's going to ever cause us a bigger issue.
Which is another example of I am willing to spend 3 or 4 days on an interview to make sure that I end up in a relationship with a person that I like and care about and that I want to be in business with, right? Some people, they get done with a 30-minute interview and they say, you're hired. How does that usually end for them?
Quickly.
Yeah.
Right?
And they
Quickly.
do that time and time again. I want you to think about in business being patient until you have to be impatient.
Which is the other side of it. You will end a relationship on the impatient side if that's what has to happen because of situations or things that pop up. You'll be patient to look for the right person. But then if something happens that they are not the right person after they show themselves true to something, now you become impatient quickly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let's
that
talk
happens
about
less often because
He's been
of the
patient going in.
patience. When you have that patience, you don't end up hiring that many people that 3 months later, like something comes out of left field.
Right.
Well, if you spend 7 or 8 years getting to know somebody like Bob Stewart, I know how Bob Stewart shows up for 7 or 8 years straight, right? I know exactly what I'm going to get with Chad and exactly what I'm going to get with Bob.
Yeah.
You guys know exactly what you're going to get with me.
Yep.
We have a long history of understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses. And we all have a lot of them, right? But we know what we're getting ourselves into. It's an easy path to walk. Well, another one would be deals. One of the challenges in the real estate market today is there's low inventory.
Yes.
And it's creating a lot of up demand that people are willing to pay high prices for real estate because they get
Impatient.
impatient.
Yeah.
Right. And they can't afford to be patient right now because if they take the night to stop and think about, even a night to stop and think about it, they've lost an opportunity.
I get people that say, you're probably not finding any good deals right now. No, I'm finding lots of good deals. Now, how are you doing that? Because I'm saying no to 100 of them.
Right.
I'm saying no to 100 bad deals, right? Or in business, we acquire or buy a lot of companies. Some of those companies, Bob, we've been working on for years and years and years and years, building relationships, talking to the people, waiting for the right time for us, whatever that might be. That is a patient and impatient game.
Yeah, you're waiting and waiting and waiting until one day they, you check in with them and they say something, Ben, that makes you go, okay, now's the time to go, and then you dive in.
Yeah, you are being observant and seeing, do we have a buy sign, a sell sign, an opportunity sign? Is now the right time for all parties? So that's a great point. You got to be aware while you're being patient. Patient isn't sitting on the sidelines and not participating, right? Patient is being a part of the process until that opportunity arises.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've taken you guys through patiently impatient. Definitely one of the traits that a winner would have. I think another way to say patiently impatient, Ben told us take action, would be that impatient side. Yet I think our military has coined a phrase that describes patiently impatient at a high level, and that's hurry up and wait.
Mm.
Nobody says it better than the military. Hurry up and wait. And that's why in our next episode, we have an interview with JP, an Army Ranger.
Love it.
Coming to join us to talk about being patiently impatient. And by the way, he's waiting for the two of you in a push-up challenge any day, anytime. He was sad you weren't on the interview with him.
Well, I'm glad we weren't. That would have turned out really bad for Ben and I, I'm sure.
Probably. Now, we hope you are impatient for the next episode, yet that you'll be patient and stick with us until we drop it. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so that it automatically shows up in your feed. And don't forget to join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/win-make-give so we can continue the conversation about the traits of a winner all together. And until our next episode, do good.